at the 18th annual 2022 Dutch Hunters Rendezvous here at the Dons Camp near Apache Junction, Arizona. I've run into a lot of great treasure hunters, researchers, and I've heard this story about a man named Crazy Jake, and I ran into a guy who did some work for Crazy Jake back in the day, and I'm going to have him introduce himself and tell me the story about his adventures into the Superstition Mountains with Crazy Jake. And with that, take it away.
Okay, my name is Flora. I became acquainted with Crazy Jake in about 67, 68. Just started my first year of college, and my dad called me one night and said, somebody I want you to meet. He's interested in having you work for him. And he puts on Crazy Jake, or Bob Jacobs, his actual name, Robert Jacobs. And he told me he needed some guys he could trust to look for the lost Dutchman gold mine. And of course I was interested. And so that summer, my dad, my brother, myself, and another guy by the name of Wayne Bowers started working for him. He had a good story. He claimed to have gotten interested in the Lost Dutchman gold mine from the Life magazine article with pictures of stone maps and other things. And he and his crew from Florida, where they'd been diving for silver bars off of the galleons, decided to come out to Arizona. Within a couple of months of them getting out here, according to his story, they found a cave that had been covered up, and that he found, according to the stone maps, he said, in the cave were gold bars. They took out as many as they could, covered it back up, went to Mexico for a couple of years to lay low, and then came back and started hunting for the other rich gold mines that he felt were part of the Dutchman's, the Peralta mines, and of which the Dutchman was one of them, he claimed. So we'd pack our food in our packs. He'd drop us off at First Water, and we'd hike First Water Trail through past Second Water, and go up to La Barge Canyon, and then up to Squaw Box, they called it back then. We would go in around sundown. Keep in mind this is the summer. Around sundown, we'd start up, hike up into the box, and then cross over to Little Malapai, they called it. He said that the Dutchman's story lined up real well, because you go up the trail, and then there was a boulder that, unless someone had thrown a rope down, you couldn't get up over it. Good story. Yeah, we were all excited. I was only 18, for Pete's sakes. And so we would work at night with carbide lamps. And the whole idea was he had certain areas he wanted us to remove the overburden by hand, and we're looking for a crevice with a peanut-shaped hole that was supposed to have the gold vein running through it.
So let me back you up here.
Yeah.
You had to work at night because it's so hot, man. You're talking here in the Superstition Mountains in Arizona. It gets hot during the day.
Yes.
So to be cooler, you worked at night. Okay. Sorry.
Yeah. And then we'd hike down just before sunrise the next day and try to sleep. Of course, you have to. There was some shade, but if you were asleep during the day, the sun would move. If you weren't careful, you get a sunburn on one side or the other. And so anyway, that was an exciting adventure for us. We never found anything like what he was looking for. It lasted probably about 3-4 weeks, us working for him, and he never paid us. So because I had to make money to go back to college, I quit and moved on to something else. But one of the things I discovered up there that I don't think anybody else knew about was on Little Malapai. There was a ridge of stone running north and south on the top of the peak, on top of that mountain, that looked like they had an altar there. Just very rough cut, and it had Oro, O-R-O, carved into the rock, and it was very faint. I've got pictures somewhere that I'll have to try to find, But
Is that on the pictures you gave me?
no,
Okay.
no. Like I say, I was limited in my time,
Yeah, yeah.
and I will look them up and forward them if I can find them.
Okay, cool.
So anyway, that was what we found there. My dad and brother and I went off and did other things. A couple of years later, my brother worked for Jake again up in that area, and what Jake was having him do was blow up boulders, claiming that there's a tunnel under them. Well, didn't find any tunnels, and some of the sad thing about some of our experience up there is one of my friends, Tex, I believe his last name was Jorgensen, worked for Jake as well, and he was up there, and he discovered at the base of Big Malapai that there were some mines or something of interest there. Well, Tex told Jake about it, and within about a week or two, Tex was dead. They found him in his pickup, wrapped up in a sleeping bag with a shotgun, and they wrote it off as suicide. But
So you knew him. Do you think he was suicidal at the time, or
no.
Okay.
Jake was very secretive about the things he discovered, and actually ended up destroying a lot of the markers that people would try to follow to see what he had. So after that, the story goes. Go ahead.
I want to stop you.
Yeah.
So it's probably a good thing you guys didn't find anything.
Oh yeah. There was another guy that worked in Jake's camp for a while. His name was Chuck. I can't remember the last name, but it didn't come out of the mountain for quite a while. Well, the reason was because there was a shootout in the camp by a guy by the name of Mexican, by the name of, I think it's Ladislaw, and he was illegal. The sheriff came in there. He claimed self-defense. They shipped him back to Mexico, and that was that. So there's been a number of instances where people have lost their lives, and Crazy Jake at the time seemed to be connected to it. But who knows? I mean, you know how stories are if you're not there.
Yeah.
So.
But you personally knew Crazy. Do you know why did they call him Crazy Jake? Did they call him Crazy Jake when you knew him, or did they start calling him that?
Yeah, no,
afterwards?
they called him that when I knew him, worked for him, because he made so many claims and not be able to prove it. There were times that he had gotten one Thanksgiving. He had wanted some of my roommates at college to come in on Thanksgiving to take out gold. And we met up at First Water. He had horses, and as we were starting to pull out of First Water campground, Jake's horse threw him right into a patch of cholla. Needless to say, we didn't go back into the mountains then. Here I was, Jake was laying out, everybody else was pulling thorns out of him, and I was pulling them out of his bald head, so some up close and personal encounters with Jake.
So have you heard any stories about him? And I mean, not saying that you know that they're true, but have you heard any stories about him, since you worked for him, and you wondered, what are some of the local stories about him, do you know?
Boy. He was really good at conning people out of their money. That's a fact. People would want to invest in the mine and all that, and he'd make all these kinds of promises, and there were times that he would come up with some gold to show them. Who knows where it came from, but of everything I'd ever seen, I never saw that he found any. So there were a couple of shootouts up there in the canyon too, where he claimed that someone else was trying to jump his claim. So there are a lot more people out there that know a lot more about that period of time than I did, because I went on to finish college and went on with life. So I can tell you a lot of places where it isn't. But I certainly had some great adventures.
So you haven't been usually this is one of the first. This is the first Dutch Hunters Rendezvous you've been
Yeah,
to. And
first
how'd you
one
hear about it, and why did you come out?
Well,
What
I
did you think of
heard about it on Facebook from Frank Augustine, and I thought, I've got some flexibility in my schedule. I'm going to go to that. So I was going to bring my brother, but he couldn't make it, so brought my next door neighbor who is a geologist and is just going nuts over all the geology up here.
Really?
Yeah, he's been backpacking with me and some other men up here in the years past. But anyway, it's just been good. I've just appreciated the camaraderie, the stories, the things we're learning about people and their encounters and all the mysteries are still up here.
Well, man, I'm glad I got to meet you, man. Thanks for sharing your story with us. And with that said, that's a wrap.
Thank you.